Hello, love warriors, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jessflo, and I am a life coach and spiritual guide. If you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Break Free from Toxic Cycles series. So in this series, I will be talking about one topic each week, and we will be talking about how I broke free from those cycles, how I help my clients break free from those cycles, what you can do to break free from those cycles, and why we must break free from those toxic cycles. So let's get into it. Get comfortable. I have my tea here. I also have my journal because, like I said, this is a safe space. We're going to be sharing. So let me know in the comments what resonates with you. And I will share what resonated with me. All right, so let's get into it. What is a toxic cycle? So a toxic cycle is basically something that is poisonous to and repetitive. So toxic, poisonous to you, something that is draining you, that is depleting you, that is making you feel less than, that's making you feel doubt, that's making you feel low frequency energies, anger, jealousy, envy, depression, anything that's seeping and growing within you, but also draining you. And a cycle is that it's repetitive. It just keeps showing up in different forms. So same thing showing up in relationships, in health, in wealth, in your mental state. So those are toxic cycles. We're going to be talking about different ones. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about relationships because that's what got me to where I am today. Relationships is what sparked me becoming a life coach and brought me on this journey, or I guess inspired me to take this journey. And why is that? Because when I was 16, things were very tense at home, and my parents separated. We found out that I had a half brother, and it was kind of a surprise shock. You can I guess understand the chaos that it brought, right? So we're three sisters, same parents. All of a sudden we have a brother, different mom. So there was a lot of chaos around the house. And mind you, there was already tension in relationships. But after that, I really began to look at other students in high school. I noticed other kids, other teenagers that were struggling with their home life and that didn't really have anyone to turn to look to. Because they didn't have anyone at home that they could share with. So your parents are your guardians. They're the ones that are showing you how the world works, how you show up in the world. And so at that moment, my parents were showing up. I don't know, showing up what? They weren't showing up, I guess. They weren't showing up for each other. My dad was in Haiti on a mission. My mom was here in Canada with us, and they weren't showing up for each other. So we weren't seeing that dynamic that essentially created us, right? And when I say us, I'm talking about me and my sisters. And so I began to notice that there was other students that didn't know how to show up or didn't know how to be their authentic selves, or were uncomfortable asking for help, or were uncomfortable even just being at school, because I didn't even want to be at school. I'm like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? Nobody's really paying attention to me, right? So I saw that there was other students that felt misheard, not heard, misunderstood, and unloved. And so I wanted to be there for them, but at that age, I didn't know how to be there for them. So I went to see the counselor. I started talking to the counselor. And you can talk to the counselor, but she's not in your life. You don't feel like you're really connecting. I didn't feel like I was connecting to the counselor in a way that was healing me, in a way that was making me feel full, in a way that I was like, yes, I want to keep living and I feel happy. I didn't feel like that's what the counselor was doing. And so I wanted to be that inspiration for children. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go into psychology, and I want to come up with a therapy or a form of reaching children so that they feel like they're always heard, that they're always loved, that they're always understood, that there's a space for them where they can truly be themselves and feel filled. Okay. So that's what set me up on my journey. And so I graduated. I went to Concordia, Montreal, because I was in Mississauga before that. So I went to Concordia University and I studied human relations. I was really interested in what makes people do the things that they do. Why are my parents acting like this? They decided to be together, right? And you can think about this in your own relationships. In my relationship, I decided that this is the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life. I decided that this is the person that I want to show up for. This is the person I want to love. This is the person I want to be vulnerable with. And my parents should have done that work too, right? So what led to them not showing up for each other anymore? What led to the habits that made them distance themselves? What was the cycles that created this situation? So that's what I was really interested in. So I went into human relations and I did psych. At that time, I was more like, just fuck everything. Like, let me focus on me and what I want and do it the way I want. So there was a lot of things I didn't do out of long-term vision. I did just because of my emotions, and this is what I feel in this moment. So if I don't want to show up for class and go to class, then fine, I'm not going to show up and go to class. If I'm showing up and going, okay, yeah, I need this class to graduate, so I'm going to show up. It was more, I was going with the flow. So that's how I went into university, and I didn't really think about what is the type of relationship that I want for myself. I thought of how can I heal other people's relationships? How can I make other people see the truth and the harmony in being in a relationship? And I guess the universe understood that that was how I wanted to show up for myself. And so the universe brought me my partner, Kenzo. And we reflected each other so much and mirrored each other so much that it was a healing journey. So I talk about on my TikTok how you should be focusing on yourself and purifying yourself before entering into a sacred union. And that does happen sometimes, but at the same time, that doesn't always happen. But if you are already in a sacred union or a spiritual relationship and you feel like this is the person for me and I do not want to project my wounds onto this person, then you need to really focus on filling that pain and being vulnerable with this person in a way that doesn't project your hurt onto that person. And so me and Kenzo, we were able to do that. We were able to talk about our hurt, talk about our pain without blaming each other and externalizing that onto each other. So in the beginning, obviously, you come with your trust issues, you come with your pain, you come with your doubt. Am I enough for this person? Can I do this for this person? Why, like, where are we really going with this relationship? But you don't make that person feel that way towards themselves. You work on that in yourself. And while working on that in myself and him working on that in himself, we were able to really create a safe and sacred space for each other to grow. And so it was now we've been together almost 11 years. I started coaching, we're in 2025. I started coaching in 2019 and so I graduated. And then I was like, what am I going to do next? So for me, my dad was in the UN, so I'm like, maybe I should do an internship in the UN. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do for the next year, but I wanted to do an internship for 1 year. While trying to figure out what I was doing, I was working full time. And I'm like, oh, I found life coaching. And I was like, oh my gosh, this resonates so much more than psychology with what I want to do. It talks about energy. It talks about changing your habits. It talks about how your habits are interconnected with your energy, your mindset, and how to shift all that and help people transform and burst with energy, right? And so I was like, okay, let me do the certificate. So I was like, Papa Dukes, can you help me? Because at that time I didn't have the money to, I just graduated, right? So I didn't have the money, and this was quite a lot of cash. So I was like, can you help me pay for this course? I really feel like this is what I want to do with my life. And so I took the course, I graduated from the course, and I started coaching. And through coaching, I learned about how relationships are a reflection of what you feel inside as well. And when you're young, when you're a minor, until the time you're about 18 or even 25, when your brain is fully developed, your parents, you're a reflection of your parents' relationship. You're not really old enough to start understanding how everything around you is a reflection of how you're feeling inside. And so a lot of the times children will blame themselves for the issues that they have, because I think children inherently understand that things are a reflection of themselves, because a lot of children will blame themselves for what's going on in their environment, and they'll be like, maybe if I was more calm, or maybe if I was more patient, or maybe if I was a good child, or maybe if I didn't do this, then things wouldn't be so bad at home. And even before I became a life coach, I did a lot of research. And like told you guys, I was like obsessed with, why do people do the things that they do? And so I understood that there was a programming, a matrix around us, and that things were functioning in a way that people could use your power. If you didn't use your power, other people were going to use your power. And if I stayed in that cycle, I would always be feeding someone else's power and not be healing and fulfilling the relationship with myself, and the relationship with my parents, and the relationship with my significant other. So I did all that research. That can be a whole other series, but I started understanding the matrix, history, how that played a role, divine consciousness, collective consciousness, and just energy in general, and what role we played in that, and what role our ancestors played in that, and what role our environment and the people around us play in that. And so I went back to my life coaching, because all the techniques I teach, I use on myself, because you're your best experiment, obviously. So I was like, okay, how do I use this for myself? How do I understand myself? How do I transform myself? How do I become the best version of myself? How do I love myself unconditionally? And so by asking these questions, I started bringing in answers, I guess, or answers started flowing in and being channeled in. And then I became a life coach, started coaching, but I was focused on health, because that's the first thing they teach you, like health and wellness, but with mindset and energy, and then it's life, right? But health and wealth was part of what I wanted to teach and to share, but it wasn't my main focus. Relationships were my main focus, and that's when I learned that relationships are with everything. You have a relationship with the people around you, you have a relationship with yourself, but you also have a relationship with money. You also have a relationship with your health. You also have a relationship with your mental state. You also have a spiritual relationship with the divine. And so I couldn't just focus on the relationship I had with my parents and healing that. There were so many other ways I could heal my other relationships, and that would pour into that relationship with my parents. And so the first awakening, I guess, for me was, well, awakening. There was several steps of awakening, but I started using essential oils. And I didn't know, like, it's just, it's just lemon essential. It's just an essential oil, but I started healing my body with just essential oils. And after essential oils came in tarot. I think it was tarot, yes, because I was looking into my ancestors. I wanted to reconnect with African heritage, and I fell on Jess from Bahati Life, and she was using a deck of African American deck, and so for some reason it just really, I was like, this is another way to speak to the, there's so many ways to speak to the divine and speak to source, and this is another way to speak to the divine and get answers from source, and to deepen that relationship with myself, and to understand the divine in myself. And so by understanding the divine in myself, all this to say, that I went through all these levels of awakening, and by understanding the divine and seeking and listening to the divine within myself, I was able to see it in others. And I'm not gonna lie to you, at first I was seeing it in other people before my parents, because we had an okay relationship. Like, I was talking to them, they were talking to me, but it's like, whatever, it's not deeper than that. So by seeing it in others, I began to understand the roles and the situations that led my parents to that, where they were in that moment. And I stopped blaming them. And at that point I started blaming the external world. But that'll be another topic. I started being like, okay, so there's all these things, and all these, if we had a chessboard, all these moves that are being played, and it's impacting and influencing my parents, and my parents are reacting to that. So how do we stop that reaction? I had to stop reacting to the reaction of what was happening to them, right? And so that meant, what do I want to experience in life? And what do I want my relationships to look like? And I wanted to be so deeply fulfilled, so deeply peaceful, so deeply happy. That's like the craving I had, to be so deeply full and to shine so brightly that I would lack nothing. And that's all, see, that's coming from I would lack nothing. But as I grew more and more, I understand that I lack nothing, and that I'm just going through this process of experiencing everything that I already am. And that's going to take time, and that's going to take patience, and that's going to take understanding my fears, the toxic or the low energy emotions that brought me to where I was, because all of that brought me to where I was, and I didn't want this to become a toxic cycle. And so I had to nip the poison in the bud. So yeah, how does that sound for you guys? Did it make sense? I know I went on a whole rant, but a lot of the questions that I brought to light, they're questions that you guys are probably asking yourselves, and you guys are searching for. And some of the emotions I brought to light are probably things that you guys want to feel or not feel anymore. And that does take some time. And I know for all of my clients that are not in relationships or have had become serial daters because they are searching for that relationships, they're trying to fill a void, and they're trying to ignore a doubt or ignore an insecurity. And you're not supposed to ignore it. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to hold it like, like a baby. Hold it and create space for it, and ask it, show me the truth of who I am. What is it that I really want to be experiencing? What is it that I want to feel? And where is this coming from? Where is this emotion coming from? Because it came from somewhere. Between 0 and 7, I always say between 0 and 7, you are in hypnosis mode. And hypnosis mode is just that you're observing the whole world and imitating. You're observing and taking in, absorbing, and you're reflecting that back onto people. And that's why I say, like, when you're young, you're not reflecting out yet. The outside is reflecting, like, you are the reflection until you understand who you are. And so understanding who you are is really key in creating the relationships and the vision that you have in relationships. And that's what I help my clients do. I help them understand what is their vision, where is this coming from, and where am I taking this? What is the journey that I want to experience? So yeah, that was for relationships today. Let me know in the comments, guys, how are your relationships? How are your relationships with yourself? How are your relationships with your family? How are your relationships with your loved ones? How are your relationship with your health, your wealth? And just sharing that can alleviate you so much and make you feel like this is not something that is keeping me stuck in this moment. This is something that can push me and give me momentum into what I really want to be feeling. And if you do need help with that, I invite you guys to DM me on Instagram, I.Jessflo, or love_warrior8, or to write me an email, Jessflokofi@gmail.com, Jessflokofi@gmail.com, and we can work together. And I have several programs that we can do that might resonate with what you really want to experience and who you really are. So yes, I will see you guys in the next video, which I believe will be about depression. Not funny, but that was a whole thing.